We begin tonight's broadcast with a set of big numbers. First, 6.6%. That's today's positivity rate in the Philippines for the percentage of those that tested positive for the virus. This is the highest reading yet since October 31st. It also breaches the WHO 5% benchmark. A week ago, positivity rate was only at 0.9%.
Today, new cases reached 1,500 for the first time since last week of November at 1,623. The Octa Research Group is already forecasting a 2,000 caseload on the last day of the year, which they say may balloon to 8,000 a day by the first week of January. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Hall.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Just before we end the year, COVID infections have once again reached the 1,500 mark. The Octa Research Group expects that to hit 2,000 tomorrow.
But should the trend continue, the group of experts see daily infections swelling to 8,000 daily as we usher in the new year. Greg Gregorio has the big story.
Crowds continue to flock to various public places such as malls and markets despite the risk of COVID-19 transmission. Most of them say that as long as they stick to protocols and are already vaccinated, then it should be fine.
Wala naman po hindi nakakatakot eh. Nakaraos nga tayo ng 2 years, di ba? What more po kaya ngayon?
Kompleto na po kami bakuna, tsaka naka-third dose na kami.
Naka-booster shot na ako. Oo, tsaka hindi ko tinatanggal ang aking face mask.
On Thursday, new cases doubled from 889 on Wednesday to over 1,600, much higher than the 400 new infections logged on Tuesday. The positivity rate also went up from 0.9% last week to 6.6% today. The reproduction number in Metro Manila also increased to 1.47 from 0.51 last week. The Octa Research Group said that the region is now considered at moderate risk. The group now sees new cases reaching 2,000 by year-end. Even worse, Octa says daily infections could even hit 8,000 by the first week of January.
It's a possibility, but I would say that there's a good likelihood of that happening given the substantial increase in the positivity rate and the number of cases over the past few days.
The increase in cases is also being felt in some hospitals.
Nitong nakaraang linggo ay napansin namin medyo dumami. So yung iba parang from 1 naging biglang 9, ganon. Ganon kataas, ano? So yung sa amin namang ospital, biglang kunyari sa 10 tao na tinest namin, 4 o 5 doon nagpa-positive for COVID.
The PCP attributes the increase to the poor implementation of protocols and the failure to observe minimum public health standards. The DOH is now urging the public to diligently follow health protocols to prevent a possible surge come 2022. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Are hospitals now seeing higher admissions as cases rise? Are they ready for another surge? That big question and more with Dr. Maricar Limpin, President of the Philippine College of Physicians. Dr. Limpin, welcome to The Big Story.
Yeah, good evening, Robbie, and good evening to everyone.
Ma'am, you heard what we've reported. Of course, you are aware of the latest numbers, but how does it all feel on the ground?
We are all worried, actually, not to be honest, Robbie, because we know that just this afternoon, we even received a report that from one hospital, initially about 2 days ago, they already have from 0 to 9 patients, and then now it ballooned to 25 patients admitted to the hospital. So, and then there is one hospital who had already 30 COVID-19 patients. So this is really, the numbers is no joke. It is really reflective of what is happening on the ground.
Now, we're talking about positivity rates, people testing positive for COVID. Itong higher numbers, is this driven by increased mobility, or does it suggest anything that it is driven by Omicron?
Well, we cannot probably discount the possibility that Omicron is already here with us, no. But I think we still believe that it is primarily driven by the increased mobility of people. We know that with the number of people that has actually gone out on the streets, and also with the with the seemingly, non-observance of the minimum public health standards. I think that is the main reason, no. And as you probably have heard, no, in one of those patients, in one of those people whom you have actually interviewed, they believe that once they already received the vaccination, they seem to be, they will not get COVID-19. But unfortunately, no, from what we have seen so far, even if you are vaccinated, you can still get COVID-19. And then if you have comorbid conditions like diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease, you are also prone or at a higher risk to develop not mild or moderate COVID-19, but even the severe COVID-19. So I think that it is best for people to really observe or adhere to the minimum public health standards.
Okay, that was Dr. Maricar Limpin of the Philippine College of Physicians. Maraming salamat po. The spike in cases is now a global trend, so much so that the WHO is now warning about a COVID tsunami. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus attributes the possible tsunami of cases to the Omicron variant. He says this may put healthcare systems on the brink of collapse. Over the past week, global COVID-19 infections hit a record high. Yesterday, France recorded 208,000 daily infections, the new national and European record. The UK, meanwhile, tallied a record 183,000 new infections. As for the US, more than 258,000 daily infections were recorded, its highest moving average in the past 7 days. Countries such as Italy, Turkey, Argentina, Portugal, Switzerland, Australia, Ireland, Bolivia, Cyprus, and the UAE are also logging record high infections.
These are the other big stories tonight. A girl is now going viral online for allegedly skipping quarantine to party in Poblacion, Makati. Her quarantine hotel has now been issued a show cause order. The 5 trillion peso spending plan for 2022 has now been signed, and with it, the president also inked a law creating a Department of Migrant Workers. And the long wait is over. The 6-decade-old Manila Zoo just reopened its doors for a soft launch. A look at the renovated park after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. For the second year in a row, we'll be ringing in another pandemic new year. And before you join the revelries, a word of warning first from medical experts.
Other than the threat of serious injuries due to firecrackers, they're also cautioning against some activities which could be COVID spreaders. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to the story.
Firecracker-related injuries have always been the bane of the New Year holidays.
Noong 2017, nalala ko nung nag-apply pala ako dito, ang daming madami may dugo, nagpuputol kami ng daliri, ganun. We had so many cases even before the New Year.
But even in the midst of a pandemic, firecrackers are taking their toll. During last year's celebration, 13 people were injured from December 21 to December 29. This year, the number has almost doubled to 25. Under Executive Order 28, signed by President Duterte in 2017, firecrackers can only be used in community fireworks displays under supervision of both the PNP and the LGU. This means Piccolo, Watusis, 5 stars, and other large firecrackers cannot be used by ordinary people.
Yung firecrackers kasi parang hindi mo magigets kung kailan siya puputok. Lalo na yung mga hindi quality na firecracker.
But the other traditional noisemakers is no longer safe to use because of the pandemic. Horns, whistles, and even the karaoke are being discouraged because of the danger of COVID transmission. Celebrating anything during the pandemic is very stressful, as almost everything is not allowed. So with all of these restrictions, how can we festively celebrate New Year's Eve? Well, there are some alternatives. The DOH encourages smashing of pans, tambourines, bells, light-emitting devices, and percussion instruments. Also, pyrotechnic devices are not banned, just regulated. Roman candles, fountains, and sparklers are available, so as long as they're used in designated areas.
As I said, proper regulation is the best. Regulation is the problem.
Ong reminds the public to first always check if the product has a product safety seal and to make sure that the brand is trusted. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
Following reports of an individual allegedly skipping quarantine to party in Poblacion, the Tourism Department has issued a show cause order to the hotel she was staying in. The show cause order was given to the Berjaya Hotel in Makati. The DOT found out that a certain Gwyneth Chua allegedly left the hotel and was seen in a bar in Poblacion despite having been under mandatory quarantine. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, DOT Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said that Chua admitted having skipped her quarantine. She has since been transferred to another quarantine facility.
All work so hard to keep our cases down by following and enforcing health and safety protocols across all sectors. So it's sad that a lot of people don't parang flaunt, and then they say that they have connections, that they are above the law, they're entitled. And because of them, cases are starting to rise.
The DOH says it is investigating the alleged quarantine protocol breach. The DOH likewise urged the public to adhere to quarantine protocols. They vow that the government will ensure that violators will be dealt with in accordance with the law.
With rebuilding efforts now underway in Odette-hit areas like Surigao, supply of construction materials is now running low. Jem Avancenia with the rest of the report.
In the aftermath of Typhoon Odette, several parts of Siargao and Surigao del Norte remain groping in the dark. They now turn to generator sets to power through the day. Daniel de la Peña had to travel 4 hours to Agusan del Norte hoping to get a genset in time for the new year. But his luck ran out. Gensets are now out of stock. Supply will only come in next week.
Na-booking na, mga 8 days na siguro. Ikan sa pagbabuking na. Nagbayad na midaan. So, mabalik na sa Lunes, Pizza 3.
Genset have been selling like hotcakes here in this hardware. Since Odette hit, they have sold close to 200 units. More than 50 have also made reservations.
Itong niyaging simana na igipadala sa Cebu. Tundag ko na generator tag 40 kb o na 6.5 kb ang gidala og Cebu. Dili nagpalit. Butuan kay sa Cebu wala man. Way kurente.
The National Grid Corporation of the Philippines said they already restored power to the franchise areas of several electric cooperatives in Surigao. But restoring electricity in full will still take several weeks. But it's not only gensets that are running low on supply. Construction materials are also now hard to come by, especially tarpaulins, which may be used as tents. Jonathan's company is hoping to donate tarps to homeless Surigaonons. He's currently haggling for 30 meters of the material.
May available nila dire, daghan ang supply kaysa ubang lugar.
Sa Kabadbaran na sir, wala na halos?
Wala na kay ma'am.
The Public Works Department is also trying to stock up on tarps with the hope of donating 2,000 units in every affected province.
Inisa lang po yung tarpaulin. Gagawa po kami ng mga temporary shelter. Initial budget po namin dito is mga 15 million po. Gagawa po namin yan siguro sa loob ng 3 buwan.
In the province's latest record, more than 45,000 homes have been damaged in Surigao City alone. Province-wide, that reaches 128,000. For News 5, Jem Avancenia, we are One News.
Bayanihan is truly alive. A whopping 61 million pesos was raised by TV5 together with the ABS-CBN Foundation from last night's telethon for the victims of Typhoon Odette. The donations will be turned over to the PLDT Smart Foundation for distribution. All donations, may it be in kind, food, or cash, will be utilized for provinces heavily hit by the typhoon. The Alagang Kapatid Foundation, along with the Metro Pacific Investments Foundation and PLDT Smart Foundation, first conducted its relief operations in Odette-hit areas, including Del Carmen, Siargao, and Bohol.
Time for another quick break. When we return, major laws got signed today. Other than next year's budget bill, the president also inked the creation of a Department of Migrant Workers. As COVID cases surge, government opted to retain Alert Level 2 across the country at least until mid-January. And the newly renovated Manila Zoo just opened its doors. Find out what new sights await inside the park after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We all know by now that the Manila Zoo just got a major redo, but for the first time today, it opened its doors to a limited number of spectators.
News 5 correspondent Camille Samonte was one of the few lucky ones to get a first peek at the renovated park. She joins us live from Manila. Camille, what awaits the public once Manila Zoo fully reopens?
Robbie, Gretchen, we are here tonight at the newly renovated Manila Zoological and Botanical Garden. Some families of the workers here are lucky to have invited by the Manila LGU for a sneak peek and to enjoy the new look of the park. By the entrance, visitors will be greeted by a replica of Mali, Manila Zoo's famous elephant since 1977. They will also see Mali's newly renovated pen, now more spacious, along with a pond which is still under construction. The new Manila Zoo also boasts a bigger aviary with an elevated walkway to give visitors a closer encounter with the birds. Viewing decks are also installed around the animal enclosures. The new Manila Zoo also showcases new attractions such as the Animal Museum, Botanical Garden, and a butterfly garden with its viewing loft. To ensure safety and proper sanitation, a sewage treatment plant has also been installed inside the zoo. According to Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, the Manila Zoo is looking into waiving the entrance fee for the entire month of January. Despite the expected price increase, ticket prices will remain the same, with non-Manila residents to be charged 100 pesos per head, while Manileños are to be given a discounted rate of 50 pesos per head. Robbie, Gretchen, some families who got first dibs here at the zoo cannot help but marvel at the park's improvements.
Ang laki ng improvement, ang laki ng development, parang Parang wala ka sa Manila Zoo dati. Para ka nasa ibang bansa.
Super excited po ako na magkaroon po kami ng bonding moments together ng mga anak ko.
Robbie, Gretchen, the Manila LGU will announce in the coming days the schedule of the opening of the zoo for the general public. They will also provide guidelines and protocols, including the capacity for the visitors. And in case you're wondering, not all animals have been returned to the new Manila Zoo just yet. Some of them are expected to be brought back by the first quarter of 2022 as soon as the renovation has been completed. But, you know, just the same, seeing Mali alive and well is a treat in itself. Robbie, Gretchen?
Well, we're definitely looking forward to touring the new Manila Zoo safely. Maraming salamat, Camille Samonte. Time for our next best look at some of the day's big stories. President Rodrigo Duterte signed a 5 trillion peso national budget for 2022. The biggest chunk went to the education sector, which received 788 billion pesos. 786 billion pesos was allocated for public works, while the health department and PhilHealth got 268 billion pesos. Likewise, President Duterte also signed into law the creation of the Department of Migrant Workers. The president certified the bill as urgent back in March. An estimated total of 2.2 million Filipinos abroad are expected to benefit from the law. Malacanang announced that the entire Philippines will remain under Alert Level 2 until January 15. Government has also put Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, and Spain under the red list, which means these countries are high risk for COVID-19. Jurisdictions under the green list were updated too.
In world news, U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin are expected to talk via phone call on Thursday as Washington ramps up response to Russia's military buildup in Ukraine. The U.S. says topics may include Washington's upcoming diplomatic engagements with Russia. Russia has tens of thousands of troops near the border of the former Soviet Republic and is asking NATO not to expand further eastward. The U.S. had earlier threatened Russia of devastating economic consequences should Moscow attack Ukraine.
For the big story in sports, 2021 has most certainly been a big year for Philippine sports. After several international achievements, the country finally captured its first Olympic gold, courtesy, of course, of Heidelin Diaz. But what's next for our Olympic hero? Find out more in my report.
The wait is over! The gold is yours!
2021 will forever be known as the year of Heidelin Diaz. During the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, Heidelin finally ended the country's long drought for an Olympic gold. And as expected, Heidelin's life changed drastically. Apart from numerous recognitions and endorsements, her name is now forever etched in Philippine history. For Heidelin, 2021 was the year her dreams came true.
Nasasanay ka na ba na nakikita mo yung sarili mo sa magazine cover, na nanalo ka ng awards?
Nakita ko ang picture ko na sa billboard, nakita ko sa magazine, parang wow, reality pala to. So sobrang saya ko.
Heidelin though admitted that she lost track after winning the gold, but found her way back thanks to the sport that she loves.
Kasi nga sa sobrang dami ng activities, tapos di ako makapag-training, pero bumalik ako. At nasabi ko na ito yung identity ko talaga ang mag-training sa weightlifting. Looking forward sa SEA Games, Asian Games, hoping na sa Paris 2024.
2021 was also a big year for Heidelin's personal life. Heidi and her longtime boyfriend and coach, Julius Naranjo, got engaged and they plan to marry next year.
Gusto ko syempre yung bata, ganun bata na makikita ko yung mga bata na lalaki, makapagpasok din ng sport.
The Philippine Olympic Committee has dubbed 2021 as the golden year for Philippine sports. No surprise after the country's multi-medal finish in Tokyo. But for Heidelin, she knows she has a much bigger responsibility now more than ever.
Kung gusto natin maging number one sa world, dapat yung standard natin ay world standard, hindi Philippine standard lang.
To cap off her spectacular 2021, Hayden also joined in the relief efforts to help out Typhoon Odette survivors in Siargao and Cebu.
Gusto ko lang sabihin na kayang-kaya natin to. Basta sama-sama tayo. Sana tayong Pilipino magtutulungan para ma-build sila ulit at alam mo yung community ay maging okay ulit.
Gretchen Ho, We Are One News.
A novelist, a doctor, these are just two of the many feathers in the cap of our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal.
But as a scientist, not much is known about that aspect of his life. So as to commemorate the 125th year of his martyrdom today, the Science and Technology Department just unveiled Rizal's first ever 3D printed Rizal monument. The large 3D monument was built to withstand strong winds and earthquakes. Dubbed as Dr. Jose P. Rizal, the Filipino scientist, the monument's design pays tribute to Rizal's many works in the field of science.
They add that Rizal even engaged in the study of nature during incarceration in Fort Santiago and also during exile in Dapitan. The statue stands at the DOST grounds in Bicutan, in Taguig.
Akala ko, NFT, 3D pala.
And nagkataon, today we celebrated Rizal Day. Me and my family, we went to the National Museum. Because from the National Museum, they have what they call a Rizal Walk. So from the National Museum, you can walk to the Natural History Museum. Tapos doon, naka-display yung mga na-discover rin ng mga species ni
Bago
Rizal.
ba ito?
Matagal matagal na yan. But I think yung dinesign nila na walk is new and special, and it didn't even start today, but people can still catch
Sa Manila ito?
Sa Manila.
Oo, marami talagang bago doon, Mapuntahan nga. No. May zoo na, may museum pa.
Pero safety pa rin,
Oo, tama. Oo, tumataas ang mga kaso, kaya i-hold muna natin na we have 1 day left to 2021. Let's make sure we end the year safe and healthy. That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.